Hey everybody, welcome to the Wonderkamer. This is your podcast where three dilettantes talk about things we find fascinating. My name is Jen Rempel. I'm here with
David
Tracy
Powell?
Anderson Powell. Oh,
Let's do it again and not speak exactly
Yes.
at the same time. Ready?
okay. You go
Who's gonna go
first.
first?
Okay, no. All right.
You go first.
3, 2, 1. David Powell.
And Tracy
That was
Anderson
setting you up
Powell.
for a bit where we shout our names at the same time.
Ah!
David Powell.
And Tracy Anderson Powell.
And I am here today to tell you about some interesting things, of course.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to be too boring. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, this is a fascinating topic. Are you guys eating right now? Because you probably don't want to be eating anything. Drinking's probably okay. Eating food, you might not want to be eating food at this moment.
I'm impressed that we got to a gross out episode on the second recording because I was genuinely thinking, oh, I should have something disgusting in a future episode because good content.
Well, it is.
But here we are.
And here's the thing, gross out, ghoulish stuff, that's kind of going to be my métier, as it were, because it's the kind of freak I am.
Nice.
Okay, so we'll get going. Does the phrase evil in tables mean anything to you at all?
No.
Like evil end tables?
Evelyn. Like the name Evelyn.
Oh.
Evelyn tables.
Like what?
Evelyn. Oh, Evelyn, okay, so Evelyn tables.
Yeah. Any meaning?
What a name.
Yes.
No, I've never heard that name before.
Take a look at this photograph. Sorry, look at this photograph, if you can, in the link. Now, do you see these?
You spend a few years in Alberta and it poisons you.
I know.
Oh, that looks macabre.
Sure is.
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, we'll get into it.
That's some dead motherfuckers.
Yes, Dave's onto it. Okay, so what these tables were made in the 1600s in Padua, in what is now Italy. So this place is going to come up again later on. These are called the Evelyn tables. And who they were... So unfortunately, it's not a cool name. It is the name, not of a person. It's a cool name of these objects. So they're named after a man called John Evelyn, who purchased them and brought them to England. So we'll get to what they are in a sec.
Interjecting, he's John Evelyn going forwards. We're talking about ghoulish subjects. We are going to put emphasis on evil, as in the fruits of the devil.
Good idea. Evelyn. It never occurred to me. This is why we need two other hosts, right? Evelyn.
I mean, I really irritatingly nicknamed any Evelyn I knew Evelyn, and they all hated it.
Well, this guy's dead, so he doesn't have a choice now. So, which hey,
eat it, Evelyn.
Being dead, not having a choice. A theme of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. All right, gonna be a fun one.
The dead can't consent.
Unfortunately.
Oh no!
Oh no! Yeah, that reminds me of some evil politics, which we'll be getting to that though. Actually, yes, we'll get there.
Oh
yeah. So these tables were purchased by John Evelyn. Now, this man was born in 1620, and he has been described by historians as sort of a 17th century virtuoso. Now, this guy was a gunpowder heir, which you could be in 1600s.
Oh.
Evil, it's sort of the equivalent to the evil industrialist's child, right? But he spent his own life pursuing his various interests. So he was a dilettante, just like us, but with way more money and way more time. So he
was a gentleman dilettante.
That's right.
A gentleman, of course, does not work, will never work, and is useless.
Yep.
And that's what makes them gentle.
Exactly.
To give you a sneak preview, my episode is going to be about a gentleman from the 16th century. So
sweet. All right. I like this theme we have going, tying together. All right. Mm-hmm. So Evelyn became an expert, though, in gardening. He had a particular interest in trees and medicinal plants. Again, worthy of an episode, perhaps. He wrote treatises on land conservation. He was one of the first commentators to discuss the relatively new problem of industrial air pollution. So this is 17th century air pollution, right? So early on this. He was one of the first members of the Royal Society. So it's a major British scientific society that still exists to this day. He also was very famous for his diaries, which have been compared to those of his contemporary Samuel Pepys. It's spelled Ppys. You know that guy? Samuel Pepys?
Yep.
Famous diarist.
Yes, who everybody in their brain goes Samuel Pepys, and then they
Yes.
hear Peeps, and they're like, "Well, that's
Yeah, they're like,
that's
how
just
did you get that?
nonsense. That's
It
nonsense.
is.
Who made that up? It's clearly Samuel Pepys and his favorite
It should
diaries,
be Pepys.
of which nobody knows their contents. It's one of the great mysteries of history."
Indeed. The contents of his diaries. Because nobody reads them now.
No, no, no. The diaries the diaries are just like, a grimoire. It's just
There was
mysteries
a
inside.
great Twitter account that posted excerpts from his diaries on like the day. That was pretty fun.
The one where he stepped in a giant turd. I remember that one. Somebody posted
Yeah.
that
Yes.
one. But hey, yeah. Another guy, but similar time. Have you heard of the company Crabtree in Evelyn?
Yes.
Yes.
Named after him. He had nothing to do with it. Just later
Oh.
to make him sound fancy because of his interest in trees
Don't
and
they
plants.
I just don't they make like, I don't know, frilly nice smelling
They
things?
They do.
Okay. Because I see that and I think of a logo, and I'm not going to look it up because this can be the one place where I don't look everything up instantly on my phone.
Fair enough.
Like soap or something with a nice
Yes.
logo that says, Evelyn and Crabtree. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you're
The
picturing
Crabtree
it.
and Evelyn.
That's right. Nothing to do with
Wonderful.
him.
Good.
Yeah, but still.
Nailed it.
You did. Famous guy. His other interest, though, was medicine. So he was a keen collector of art and oddities. So these two interests would often intersect, right? His interest in weird things and in medicine. So, like a lot of wealthy English guys of his day, he took a lot of trips to Europe to pursue this interest and to collect various objects for his own cabinet of curiosities, his very own Wonderkamer. So that's going to be a recurring theme. The Wonderkamer. So Evelyn did not become a doctor. Apparently, he saw some gore and could not handle it. So,
I totally get that.
yeah, he did.
Yeah, like healing people's fine until you see what's inside of them, and my God, there's nothing good in there.
Oh no,
just nothing.
It's a whole mess.
My one regret is that I will never see my own skull.
That's so funny. I know. Isn't that a weird thing? It's true. It's like, or I'll go to the doctor, I'll go to the optometrist, and they'll be like scanning my retina. They're like, look at this. It's like, whoa, I'm looking at the thing I'm seeing with. Whoa. But it's true. Seeing your own skull.
Spooky.
I know. If there was a way, I guess X-ray's as close as you can get.
Mm-hmm. My life's goal is to see my own skull now.
That's not a good goal. Because it's only going to happen accidentally.
Oh, yeah. Well, who knows? Science is ever changing. So who knows what wonders science can bring. Skull replacement surgeries. So
yes.
Okay. On that note, fascinating things. Surgery is very fascinating. And Evelyn found it to be so because he just liked to go to hospitals and see what was going on. So he traveled to the Netherlands in the 1640s, kind of just to see how they did things over there. So he did go to Leiden University. And I'm going to say, shout out to a fellow student. Not to brag, but I did go to Leiden as well. He didn't take any courses, though. So he enrolled in their School of Medicine, but probably because...
Oh, I've been to lots of universities I didn't take courses at.
Yeah.
I've been to University of British Columbia.
I've been to so many universities, yes.
University of Edinburgh, yeah, I was there. I saw it.
Yeah, that's right. The same credentials as this guy, so you're getting up there.
Yeah.
He didn't...
yeah, exactly. I'm a certified onlooker.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, same here. Well, in this case, I actually did go to Leiden, but it was an arts degree, so I didn't have to worry about blood and guts.
Yeah. For our listeners, Jen's the educated one.
Oh, I thank you. We're all educated in our ways. Yes.
In our ways of having an education.
Indeed. So he was pretty impressed with Leiden. They had a huge, early anatomical theater, giant botanical garden, which is still there. You can visit that. I was just there a couple weeks ago, in fact. It's a beautiful place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He watched...
I want an anatomical garden.
Yeah, a physic garden and an anatomical theater. So...
No, it's just like legs sprouting all over the place.
Ugh.
Spleens. Yeah.
Grow yourself an ear.
Ooh.
Yeah, nervous system dangling from a tree.
That's fascinating. And you guys are...
A grow your own ear thing for the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? But you guys snuck a peek at my notes because These gory
Oh,
images will have a place momentarily.
Excellent. I'm excited that our. I don't know what I'm saying here. Go on,
It's
Jen.
all good. It's gonna be the heart-shaped box video. You seen that? Pretty nasty.
I have, of course. I'm 45. Of course, I've seen the heart shaped box
Yes.
video.
Okay. Yeah.
I am also 45 and have not seen it.
Well,
Oh,
we'll include that in the show notes. A link to Nirvana's heart-shaped box video. Because actually, that kind of
All
does fit the
right.
theme. We'll do that later.
uh,
So, Evelyn is hanging out in Leiden. He's going to the hospital, seeing what they're doing. He's watching some dissections, that kind of thing. Normal stuff, right? I do want to read this paragraph from historian C.D. O'Malley. This is a quote. Returned to Leiden, Evelyn matriculated in the university where, although he undertook no studies, he was much impressed by the medical school, its physic garden, and especially by the anatomical theatre and museum. On a later occasion, when the Duke of York told him of a woman who had swallowed an ear of barley that eventually worked out of her side, somehow popped out of her side, I guess. Yeah, I
oh.
don't want to know.
Oh,
Evelyn was able to recall and describe
No, no, hold up. I want to marinate on that for a little
Can
bit.
you skip past
She
this?
swallowed it like
An ear of
I can
barley?
walk down the street and find an ear of barley growing around the place. I live in a very agricultural area. And the notion that if I swallowed that, I'm not going to shit it out. It's just going to work its way out through my
I
side.
guess so. Just popped out.
What are the? Oh,
Probably, I'm like, it's probably in her clothes. Got stuck in her bra or something, and you get popcorn in your bra
oh,
sometimes
I
in the
hate it when
theater,
that happens.
you know what? Barley bra is a common problem in the agricultural north of Alberta. I have to say.
Probably, I'm sure it must be. They're probably just like, it popped out of her side. I'm sure it was something bizarre or it was fake. Like the whole woman who gave birth to rabbits thing, which we won't even get into now.
Oh, yeah.
Or if she ate like a straight up ear of barley, it might have just become lodged improperly in her stomach and then punctured, and then the body worked it out. I mean, that's.
I guess it's
I don't
possible.
know anything about medicine, but I do know I can make up that possible outcome.
That's what we'll go with because
I
I
mean,
have no other explanation.
how is that much different from medicine in the 1600s?
I'm not writing
There
it
we
down.
go. And you're not saying it's true. You're saying it's possible, but
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
saying it's true. It
okay.
absolutely happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go with that. We'll go with that. So the Duke of York is telling him the story. So Evelyn was able to recall and describe a knife he had seen at Leiden 20 years earlier, and he noted in his diary at the time this knife was newly taken out of a drunken Dutchman's guts by an incision in his side
Oh.
after the sottish fellow had swallowed it. So it's like a Hieronymus Bosch. Some Dutch guy swallows a knife in his drunken stupor. You'd think the knife would be able to cut itself out.
Yeah, that should be a problem that takes care of itself.
Yeah, how can the barley, self extract, but a knife can't? I'm starting to question my own, true statements.
Yeah. Maybe she accidentally swallowed a knife as well, but thought it was barley. I don't know. Who knows? But eventually, Evelyn's travels. So that's a bizarre thing. Quote's finished. We'll get back to Evelyn now. His travels took him to Padua, Italy. Of course, before it was Italy, where he picked up those bad boys, those Evelyn tables. So, what are they? The Evelyn tables were made in the 1640s by a Paduan anatomist named Giovanni Leone d'Este. I'm trying to get these pronunciations right.
I love that you got the hand motion in there too.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
because this is an audio medium, nobody understands that Jen was doing the hand thing in order to get the pronunciation
So,
right,
I
which is
have
correct.
to. I have to.
The only way to sound this in Italian is to bind their hands.
You kind of do. Yeah, it's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
They speak with their hands, right?
Mhm.
Trying to be respectful. So, not much is known about D'Este, as far as I can tell. So, as you can probably guess, these are anatomical preparations, right? So, those four tables that I showed you, they consist of various human tissues cut out of a human body, glued down to these wooden boards, and then lacquered over. So, pretty gross. But I don't know how you would do this even. So, to quote Wikipedia, the first table is the spinal cord and nerves, is a human body. The second shows the aorta and the arteries. The third shows the vagi, whatever that is, and sympathetic nerves, and the veins of the lungs and liver. And the fourth shows the distribution of the veins. So, it's spinal cord, nerves, veins in these four tables, somehow cut out of a human body, glued down. Like, pretty gross, but pretty
So,
amazing.
Yeah, that's
ex-
Yeah.
spectacular.
extracting the nervous system with knives, right? Because
Yes.
that's all you've got are like knives, and I don't even know if tweezers were invented then. Nobody looked that up. And so that's insane.
Yeah, yeah, so bizarre, yeah. Very fascinating, and they look like a nightmare kind of. They look very frightening. They're very just for those who we'll put pictures in the show notes too in the YouTube. But yeah, they look creepy. They're just these like sort of shiny golden brown boards with the outline of a person in veins and nerves, basically for most of them. So they're quite
This
weird.
I've seen diagrams of the nervous system or the vascular system or whatnot, and I guess this is how you do it in the olden
That's
times.
right. That's how you learn because that's what they're made for. Now, these are the
Mhm.
oldest surviving anatomical preparations in Europe. So, very, very early, 1640s. Nothing before then has really survived. And these are now in the Hunterian Museum in London, England. This is a famous
Ooh.
museum of anatomical specimens. So, although I like to be a
Oh.
international, lady of mystery, we want to keep our locations anonymous. Let's just say, I did see them in person recently, so I do have a photograph that I took myself. Not as good as the one from the British or from the Hunterian, but saw these Evelyn tables in person, along with a lot of other gross, nasty things in jars. Like those frogs.
Oh, like the skin pants?
Oh no! Ugh. I did see the skin pants too, but not there. But yeah, nasty stuff in jars.
Oh.
Basically, like a bunch of globs of things. You know what they had there too was those frogs where the babies come out of their back. Have you seen
Yep.
those?
Yeah.
Ugh, they had one of those in a jar, and I wanted to puke. It was very disgusting. Like,
Oh no, that's just the greatest trypophobia nightmare in
yes,
nature.
and like I
Yeah.
feel like my gross out scale, like my scale for what is disturbing, is kind of shot because I'm all over this kind of ghoulish stuff. But even then, I was like, ugh, it's very gross. So, yes. So, as you can tell, my subject today will be anatomical specimens, and those specifically made from actual human body parts. So, I'm going to have again, content warning here. It's going to get more gross, of course. I'll be talking about human anatomy and dissection, but I'm also going to touch on things like infant mortality, suicide, the abuse rather of corpses. So do be aware, and probably don't eat while you're listening to this. So thankfully, Dave and Tracy are not eating right now, as I've warned them.
I have a lovely
You should
cup
be
of
okay.
coffee.
Maybe don't take a sip when I'm going to show you something right before I show you a picture.
Okay, noted.
Okay. So, what were these specimens for? You can probably guess. They were intended to be educational, as Dave said. Like, that's kind of what you'd have to do. Somebody would have to painstakingly take out the nerves and draw them, or in this case, glue them down, or something, right? To make them preserved for educational purposes. So, the people who made and who still make anatomical specimens always claim, oh, these are purely educational. But I don't know. I kind of
They're jerking it.
suspect these guys are freaks. Yeah, I was gonna put it more delicately, but yeah, I kind of think there was something gross going on with some of these guys. De Este Evelyn tables, I don't know, but there's something weird going on with some of these folks, which we'll talk about later.
Just rank goonery.
Yeah. So, just for a little bit of history here, the study of human anatomy can, of course, be traced back basically to the earliest human history. I'm not going to get into too much detail about all of that. It's a huge topic because my topic is strictly speaking some preserved specimens. And I'm going to just focus on a few of them because this is a huge rabbit hole topic. I could do episodes on so many different things. So we'll just focus on a couple of these specimens for now. So, historians of medicine have traced the human interest in anatomy, medicine, and surgery back to the earliest civilizations. So you have this in Mesopotamia and Egypt, those cradle of civilization places, right? They were dissecting human bodies, trying to figure out what was going on with people, right? Because
It's curiosity would lead you there,
yeah,
right? Because hey, Bill, or the Mesopotamian equivalent to Bill, just keeled over. Well, I guess let's find out what's inside of him and what didn't work anymore, or what does work. And yeah, I
makes
mean, it's
sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was, again, so long as people had the minds to be curious about that. Whenever we hit that evolutionarily, we're going to start cutting each other open to see what makes each other tick,
Yeah,
and then
Yeah,
eventually
if
find it's much easier to do it to a corpse.
yeah. Yeah, much less cruel also to do to a corpse. It's a human thing. We're curious animals, right? Like you say, Dave,
yeah.
like when something goes wrong, you gotta figure it out. Apparently even crows do this. I heard this, I think, from Sarah Marshall, one of her podcasts. If a crow dies, the other crows will like investigate and be like, what the hell happened? Because it's about
Yeah, they have
survival.
funerals too. Or is that ravens?
Probably both.
Uh, they're they're
Probably.
so
That's
similar. Crows are a
amazing.
little more social, but they're
That's
so
cool.
similar.
So yeah, so back then, Egypt, Mesopotamia, probably Sumeria, wherever, they're dissecting human bodies most likely, right? Of course, the Greeks then, when we get to them, they are very interested in science and medicine, but I was kind of surprised to learn this. It is with them that the practice of human dissection actually became frowned upon. The Romans would later outright ban the practice, which again, I was kind of surprised by because we think of the Greeks and Romans as sort of the founders of science and scientific method early on, but they were doing things in a more theoretical sense, right? So, Han China as well, dissection was banned. It's believed that later on in some medieval Islamic societies, this was banned, although they're not really sure about that. So, quite early on, early on in the sense of like the modern era, the common era, right? Dissection is beginning to be seen as interfering with religious ideas about the sanctity of the body. And so the general prohibition on human dissection would last about 1500 years. Generally, I'm speaking mostly about Europe here because this is going to be my main area of topic, my main area of familiarity. So, depending on what part of the world you were in, dissecting human bodies was just not allowed, basically. It was very disrespectful.
That
So, it was
that
seen.
makes perfect sense to me because you have your scienticians or philosophizers and medicinal nut jobs who want to see what makes a body tick, and then someone goes, "That's my mom. Stop it immediately.
Yes.
What is wrong? Stop it!" And so this
Yeah.
And so when you couple that with, these societies where religion is ingrained into literally everything, these attempts to push in different directions, and they come to cutting open your mom. There's a reason why, the grave robbing and all that kind of thing, which I'm sure is going to feature
Yep.
in this, because anyone who wants to cut people open is going to start with graves. That just makes perfect
Mhm.
sense to me. But the fact that it showed up in China as well, and possibly in the Islamic Empire, is, yeah. So you get this international urge to find out what's going on. And then the conservatives, kind of the wrong word, but traditional
Mhm.
resistance again, please don't cut open my mom, or even that prisoner. Not him either. It's weird. Knock it off.
Mhm. Well, it's actually quite a dilemma, really. And when you think about it in that sense too, it is, you're right, like quite problematic because you're thinking about these are human beings, these are people's loved ones, right? But as we
Mhm.
will see, it's not going to stop some people, and it's going to get pretty interesting. So,
Never has, never will.
yeah, well, and it's still a dilemma to this day, right? It's still an issue. People have to donate their bodies to science in general, right?
Mhm.
Training. We're having more computer models these days, but again, dissection is part of learning to be a physician. But even
I intend to donate my body to art.
because yes, that's a good idea. I'm gonna donate
I
mine.
want the world's most offensive performance artist to commit indignities upon my
Oh,
corpse in whatever way satisfies the requirements of that artistic piece. I think it's the only ethical thing to
honestly,
do.
that's a good idea. Have you seen Joel Peter Whitkin's photographs? Okay,
No.
No.
that's a whole other episode. But if you know what I'm talking about, yes, he made bodies into art for sure. That's a whole other episode, I think, actually. It's a good one. But yeah, so even you've probably heard of Galen, the famous Roman physician. Even he
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
relied on animal dissection and treating injured gladiators for his observations. And the fascinating thing was Galen was the four humors guy who basically kind of, although he was innovative in many other ways in terms of like blood flow, how the veins work, all these things, he was the four humors guy, which held back medicine for like 1,000 years because
The
nobody could
Yes.
question
wrongest.
it, right? And he wasn't even dissecting people; he was just looking at dead, animal. He's dissecting animals and sometimes like vivisecting, which I don't want to talk about because it's disturbing and horrible. But they would do that too, cutting open animals that were
Mhm.
actually alive, which is disgusting. But they could
Ooh.
do that, but dead corpses, no way. You can treat a gladiator, maybe if you find a corpse in the street, take a look. But yeah, really prohibited to actually do this in a sort of scientific way. So these prohibitions did begin to slacken in Europe, sort of in the late medieval period. So I'm going to quote here historian Connor T.A. Brenna. I'm going to quote him. He attributes this to both a continued evolution of attitudes regarding the body after death, which saw its preservation as decreasingly relevant to the afterlife, and to the emergence of the first universities in Europe. So, end quote there. To essentially what's happening is people are saying, well, okay, we have these religious ideals, but who cares? The soul isn't being dissected, it's just a corpse. Who cares? Right? And we have all these universities coming about, all these universities starting up in like the 1200s, 1300s. People need a way to study things scientifically, especially anatomy, right? So they're
And
looking
when
for
you
a way
have
out.
and unlike a very Christian thing is just theology, right?
Hmm.
Where and I can be completely talking out my ass here, but I'm not aware, for example, because there's tons of Roman writings, Roman theology, right? Where they're actually like constantly questioning and like reinterpreting and having giant councils and fights the nature of their religion, because Christianity is inherently an organized religion,
Hmm.
while polytheism was only pseudo organized. And you have all these monks writing about the nature of God over and over and over again throughout like 1,000 years. That thought's going to advance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That makes perfect
Yeah,
sense to me.
it's going to
Huh.
change. And I think, you have, again, material conditions, right? Universities are emerging. People need to learn this stuff, right? If people are dying and, we need medicine, this is a recognized thing, right? So back to my quote from Brenna. So this era fostered a renewed recognition in the value of anatomy and therefore of anatomical dissection as a tool of scientific medicine. So in 1231, Common Era, Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II resolved that a single human cadaver could be dissected every 5 years for the education of surgeons.
Oh.
And I don't know if this is all of the Holy Roman Empire, probably. So one corpse every 5 years. That's all the information I have. I don't know whose body it was. I don't know where they're getting these corpses, probably criminals.
Approximately what
That's
century was that?
1231, the year 1231.
Oh, okay.
So it's things are changing, and this is
Yeah.
going to continue loosening up these laws, especially in Europe. So we see autopsies becoming legalized for like forensic investigations. Generally, the bodies of condemned and executed individuals were sort of increasingly deemed acceptable to dissect, right? Because again, it's like you said, Dave, I don't want you cutting up my mom, right? Like this criminal, and like you said, the criminals back then, they were no, but now it's like, well, I guess those guys committed, they probably stole a loaf of bread, so cut him up.
Yeah, Aethelred, the asshole pig thief.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
he's up. Let's see what. Yeah, let's see what a spleen does, buddy.
Yeah, check it out. Just take a look.
Won't bring my pig back though.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh wow. He's punished, acceptably punished for stealing a pig. Yeah, that's how it was. So, of
Mhm.
course, European societies at this time had pretty strict limits on whose bodies and how many could be dissected sort of per year. So, as you alluded to, Dave, earlier, of course, rather infamously, anatomists and surgeons, kind of up until the 19th century, and well, even today, but it's changed, had a really hard time coming up with bodies for medical instruction and for study. And so they did become to rely in some places on grave robbers, right? And you have cases where there's outright murderers like Burke and Hare in Scotland in the 1820s, literally killing people, bringing the corpses to Robert Knox, the physician, and he'd be like, "Oh, these look pretty fresh," and so that was a huge scandal.
Yeah, who's he to
Exactly,
question
yeah.
it?
And that guy, I think, was a sick freak too. One of the corpses he got was so gorgeous, he kept it preserved in whiskey for
Uh
3 whole months before he dissected it. And I'm like,
Oh,
I
wow.
don't want to know what he was doing in those 3 months. I think he,
There's a
No.
meme kicking around about why mortuaries tend not to hire
yeah,
men, and it's exactly why you think.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad. Another one
Because
Remember,
men are
yeah,
disgusting.
what
another,
did you say earlier, Tracy? A corpse can't consent.
that's the thing,
Yes.
right? Also, I just heard this really horrible rumor that when Marilyn Monroe died, her body went missing for 6 hours on the way to the
Oh.
morgue. And supposedly,
Oh
Oh,
my
no.
god, that
yeah,
poor woman went through
I know.
everything.
I don't know if that's true. I was trying to find out if that's true because it's so horrible. I hope it's not. But
Conspiracy theories about Marilyn Monroe would be a fun episode.
honestly,
Yeah.
interesting woman. Yeah. So now, I mean, even in my notes, it says to focus back on anatomical specimens. Again, this is a gross episode. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, it's kind of gross. So, due to the difficulty of procuring bodies for students and instructors to dissect, you do see people begin to create types of anatomical teaching tools in the 16th and 17th centuries, right? Because if bodies are scarce or rare, you need something to teach with if you don't have them. So, I don't know if you've heard of anatomist and physician Andreas Vesalius. He produced a very
No.
highly influential work on human anatomy, De Humani Corpus Fabrica Libri Septem in Latin, as they were wont to use at the time, on the fabric of the human body in 7 books. And these contained highly detailed engravings of dissected bodies. I'm going to send you a link here to take a look at them because it's
Cool.
very influential book. And having done book studies at Leiden, we did talk about this. Books like this. This was the first time people were able to produce such detailed, like to mass produce such detailed works. Very
This is so
beautiful. Yeah,
cool.
they're very beautiful. It's very well done, very artful. Also a little bit kind of creepy because he's posing these corpses often in various ways. So you'll see like a half-hanged skeleton, or like a skeleton looking at a skull with a beautiful landscape in the background. So they're pretty haunting, but they're very well done and really very detailed. So Vesalius was one of those people who produced very famous printed work on anatomy. But you will see people creating other objects. For example, you see like carved dolls, like made of ivory or wood, and you can open them up and see the guts inside. Or like a pregnant woman, for example, you open it up and see a fetus inside. So you see a lot of wax models. So literally, just somebody would look at a figure and make a wax model of it. Particularly of anomalous conditions like venereal diseases and deformities, you see a lot of wax figures of these two. But you also begin to see the preservation of actual body parts as teaching tools. So, like those Evelyn tables, right? Beyond that, though, people start doing things like preserving organs, fetuses, and other body parts in jars of chemicals, right? And they're working on means of preservation. This is a very famous image you can see if you go to the Hunterian Museum website. It's basically all there's Evelyn tables and then just jars of gross things, basically. So,
There's one of those at the vet clinic.
oh, really? What is
Oh
it?
yeah, the
Yeah,
vet
it's
clinic has
something
a bunch of
small.
preserved stuff at the back wall.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting, but cool. Yeah. So, another innovation is injecting human tissues with wax and other chemicals to allow for dry preservation and display. So, all kinds of means of preserving actual human body parts, not just drawings, wax figures, right? A lot of these objects.
Oh, the trial and error on that must have been
Oh, can you
insane.
imagine? Oh, God.
Yeah.
So many
Well, that didn't
corpses
work.
gone to
Let's try the
waste.
next thing.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Chuck it in the fire or throw it in the trash. Who knows? They seemed, that's the thing, from
Just this big mound of bodies.
throw it in the foot pile. Ugh. Yeah, just chuck it out. Ugh.
Just this
So,
mountain of badly preserved, dismembered feet that just slowly builds up. But
that's like the
imagine with
American
all
Civil
those
War.
strange
Ugh.
chemicals. Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
Yes.
nasty. Well, yeah, the American Civil War too. Just piles of like hacked off legs and feet and arms. Just yep, in the pile.
My understanding of Civil War medicine is literally the only form of medicine they applied was amputations, and they
Yep.
applied it no matter the problem. So if you, for example, have bloody stool, you're getting something amputated, no
Ass
question.
cut off.
That's the only thing they have. Yeah, an asectomy. Yes.
Take off those cheeks. Assectomy. Just cutting the ass right off. So there probably are preserved ass cheeks somewhere in the world, because many of these
Probably.
preserved items they still exist, and they are preserved in museums and universities around the world, of course. So famous collections of anatomical specimens and displays include that Hunterian Museum in London, England. There's the Musée du Poitras in Paris, Museum Vrolijk in Amsterdam's a cool one, and the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia is very famous. I've been to all of those except the Mutter, and I probably will never go there because it's in Philadelphia, and I will never go to America again, probably. So, yes, the Musée du Poitras in Paris is interesting. It's temporarily closed now, but in 2009, I was in Paris, and I wanted to visit because I'm a freak, and I had to pretend to speak French because the guided tour was in French only. So I was like,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh
I
no, you had to speak
get it.
Canadian cereal box French.
Yeah, I was like, oh, oui, yeah. Oh,
Sucre.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Tabarnak.
Sans sucre.
Sans sucre, yeah. Avec
Yeah.
lait. Anyway, yeah, I pretend to speak
La
French,
pomme de
basically, but
terre.
yes, I
Yeah.
know that one. Potatoes. So I did, kind of awkwardly join this tour. We just walked through like a room of wax models, like a lot of diseased penises and vaginas, A lot of faces with warts and horns growing out of them, jars of nasty things. Yeah, a lot of gross things in jars. And like the thing with these museums is they're gross at first, but when you see a few two-headed lambs in jars, like you kind of get used to it. Like the Hunterian that I was at recently is kind of gross. Like I did kind of feel sick. It could have been I had a giant coffee right before I went in. Didn't my stomach was upset, but yeah.
But nonetheless, the point is, you're a spooky lady, and as a spooky lady, you were still queasy by the end of these
Yes,
tours.
that's right. I could be getting weak in my old age too. Honestly, I could just be like, okay, I'm becoming more less jaded, perhaps somehow. Partly, it's also because when you see these displays, some of them begin to verge on the grotesque. I have never seen one of these, but you can find examples in libraries of books bound in human flesh. Again, that's a whole other episode. But again, what is the value to that, right? Like you would, for example, there'd be famous examples of like a condemned criminal would write a memoir and somebody would publish the first edition, one copy in that criminal's skin, right? And they are real. Like you do see examples of things like that where what is the purpose? Is that educative? Is that educational? Or was the person just a sick freak, right?
I'm trying to think through the thought process there at the time,
Yeah,
because it's like, we've got Bob the Axe Murderer, and we've got his memoirs here. So what do we do with his memoirs? I got an idea.
I know. Yeah, it's like I'll cut off his skin and bind the book in
Yeah,
it.
like,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's one case I read about recently too. I was reading a Joyce Carol Oates novel about this gynecologist from the early days, and one of his patients had severe trichinosis. Like her body was riddled with worms, like horrible. So she lost weight very quickly.
Ugh.
And after
Oh.
she died, he cut her skin off and used it to bind a book without her consent or her family's consent, of course, right? So that's gross. And what is the value there? The guy probably is a sick freak. Like, look, I'm interested in ghoulish things, but like, see, I'm not Ed Gein. I'm the person who would like drive past Ed Gein's house and look at the windows, right? I like this is fascinating to me because it is like, what's the difference between
No,
playing?
it's like watching sports, but it's not actually like playing in sports.
Exactly. I'm a fan
You
of
got a
it.
team to cheer for.
Yeah, I'm on Team Corpse, just for the record, so I guess Team Corpse. Respect the dead. So
There's some merch for us.
there we go. Hey,
Team
first
Corpse. Oh
T-shirt,
my god, I
Team
love that.
Corpse.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
again, it's this whole idea of like consent and all these things. And the idea that dead people can't give consent is a horrifying thing, but it's been pretty popular, right? And again, these moral and religious ideas, it's supposed to be for moral purpose for some reason, right? So these ideas have always had a place in medical research and in sort of anatomical preservation and dissection and all these things. So, moral and religious ideas have, of course, always had a place in medical research and in the sort of golden age of anatomical preservation, like the 1600s. This time we're talking about bodies, again, were used as moral or philosophical objects in addition to being simple educational tools. And we of course, talked about this before. Like, sometimes they're more about art and like what the anatomist is doing with them, right? And that's kind of what's interesting here is like preserving anatomical specimens was meant to be sort of a highly academic affair. But I want to look at people who now got, shall we say, a little baroque with it. I'm going to show you another image here, and I'll share that in the chat with you guys.
If you're listening to this not on YouTube, there will be pictures on
Take a look at some
YouTube.
of these. What do you think of these objects? So that first image you see.
Oh my god, it's a still
Ah,
death.
that's a good way to put it.
Like rather than a still life, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a good way. What do you think, Tracy? What do you think when you see this first image here?
The skeleton at the top kind of looks like it has a baby
Sure
skull.
does. So what we're looking at
Oh.
is a diorama made by, so cute, right? So what we're seeing here for the viewer is basically a pile of rocks, which are actually gallstones or kidney stones taken from
Oh
real people
Jesus.
and
Oh,
sort of
wow.
stacked around it neatly to look like trees. Those are preserved veins and arteries from humans. We have a whole bunch of little baby skeletons, basically fetuses. One of them is lying sadly on the ground, a little insect. preserved insect hanging
Oh, I
off of
didn't
it.
even notice
Yeah.
him.
The guy at the top there with the baby skull that you notice, he's playing a little violin made of bones. So it's a very bizarre image. And if you scroll down, you'll see some more of these. So you will see some images. This is from the public domain review. We'll have a link in our chat or in our show notes as well. But you'll see preserved animals, like again, one of those gross frogs. You see preserved birds, a little armadillo. Very, very elaborate jar toppers, basically. So you have an animal preserved in liquid, and on top is like a diorama of further preserved animal or human tissue. So
This is donating your body to art involuntarily, but
that's
nonetheless, this
right.
is art.
That's right. So again, I was going to ask, do you think that's something you'd like?
Yeah, it's weirdly beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to be clear, are
Mhm.
these sketches of things that physically exist, or are these just sketches in and of
Well,
themselves?
that's the thing. I personally am not sure. Now, these were things that supposedly existed, right? But we'll talk about that a bit more because I have my doubts, but there's a
Okay.
bit of a history here too. So, again, we've described what we're seeing. It's like a diorama. This was made by Frederick Reusch. So these are typical of what sort of the dioramas he became famous for, among other things. So Luc Koymans in the Public Domain Review has another separate great article on Reusch with a lot more images, including ones I just showed you. Joanna Abenstein is a person who's in this field who also has a good article on this topic, which again we will link to in the sources. But if you're listening to this, you want to look up Frederick Reusch. Ruysch. Very fascinating. He was born in The Hague in 1638. So he's a little bit younger than John Evelyn. So he's a little bit later than him, about 15 years younger. He was apprenticed to an apothecary, so it's an old timey pharmacist at a young age. So Frederick Reusch was born in The Hague in 1638. So pretty early on, he was apprenticed to an apothecary. It's like an old timey pharmacist making their potions at a pretty young age. He was a little bit younger than John Evelyn by about 15 years. So they are near contemporaries. Reusch also went on to study at Leiden University. Shout out. And unlike Evelyn, Reusch actually would go on to graduate with distinction. He went on to become the chief
Ooh.
anatomist of the Amsterdam Surgeons Guild for nearly 60 years. So, as a professional, his
Oh,
whole
wow.
deal was medical preservation for the purposes of studying and teaching, and also maybe for fun. Because again, looking at those dioramas, he's probably having a good time. And honestly,
Everybody needs a hobby.
that's right. And there's a particular one I want to show you because it's kind of funny. But I'll show it to you later. But it's okay. We'll just cut this part out. To quote an article by scholars Mark Kidd and Irvin Maudlin, Reusch in particular developed a virtuosity in the crucial technique of revealing the courses of blood and other vessels by the injection of various substances into the organs. This is how he preserved, right? Using a combination of wax, resin, talcum, oil of lavender, cinnabar, and colored pigments, he was able to produce exquisite, lifelike specimens that maintained their original appearance almost in perpetuity. After injection, the
And
specimens were
smelled nice.
placed. Well, yeah, oil of lavender, get some cinnamon in there, cinnabar. I think that's cinnamon. Not sure what that is. But yeah, after the injection, the specimens were placed into a container of liquor balsamicus or Nantic brandy, whatever that is, and black pepper to
Ooh.
prevent decomposition. So it does sound kind of tasty. These wonders were described by one as
I mean, I get the preservative qualities of brandy, and that brandy is a result of winemaking, and therefore there's going to be brandy made. But then you're adding pepper, there's lavender. They're going to eat
it
these
kind of
people.
seems like it. It's a little soup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time food looks a little scarce.
Ooh, brandied
Well, you
criminals.
know what? They were eating mummies back then as medicine, right? The Victorians were like
That's true.
grinding up mummies. So
Genuine problem. Yes,
Yeah.
the mummy eating
yeah,
craze.
that's so insane. Another episode. So Reusch's wonders, I'm quoting here again from those scholars, were described by a contemporary. He said, a contemporary of Reusch said, his mummies were so many prolongations of life, whereas those of the ancient Egyptians were only deplorable continuations of death. So he's famous because he preserves these bodies in such a way that they look alive for a long time. You're mummifying things. Obviously,
Wow.
it's a dried up corpse, right? So he becomes very famous for this, right? So essentially, he would preserve organs and tissues with wax and other ingredients that he kind of kept secret, and he'd put them in jars filled with alcohol and pepper, right? This is how he did the majority of his preparations. So they are not these elaborate dioramas of skeletons and veins and all the stuff that you're seeing for the most part. He did mostly do like tinned specimens, I guess. Jarred fetuses and jarred hands and arms.
The dioramas were just a treat for
Yeah,
Daddy.
yes, I think so. So they looked very lifelike. And if you go to, again, the web, this is interesting to you. You go to the website of the Kunstkamera in St. Petersburg, you can see some examples of these. And again, we'll talk about why they are there in a moment, but I'm going to send you another link. I hope this link does work. If you do a search there, Frederick Reusch, I did it in Cyrillic, but I didn't realize there's an English option, so I was trying too hard. You can see a lot of these there. They look pretty boring at this point. It's just guts in jars, kind of what it looks like. So you can peruse those at your leisure. Again, it's a lot of stuff in jars. So human tissues, organs, a lot of baby arms for some reason. I don't know. He liked to have a little frill of the baby arm sticking out of it, so they're kind of
Yeah.
creepy.
Right hand of a 1-year-old child.
Yeah,
One of them looks like ground
most of them
beef.
kind of do, right? Like they're various
Ground
tissues.
beef
They're
of
just
child.
hey, I wouldn't put it past them.
Tongue of small
Again,
child.
goes
Ugh.
with the pepper and the brandy. And I found
Yeah.
this one, and this is interesting to me because if you look at it closely, you can see a bit of a hint of some of what those dioramas might have looked like. So this, for the listener, is a fetus, it looks like, preserved in a jar. And on top of it is, again, a diorama with a little dried up seahorse with some dried up veins, maybe, various objects, presumably of human or animal origin. So you can kind of get a sense of what the dioramas might have looked like because they don't exist anymore. They are no longer around, which we'll get to in a sec.
Those are definitely
Yeah. So
veins.
you can see, like, he obviously knew what he was doing in a way, right? Because they're still around. This is 300 years later, almost 400 years later, right? But how did they end up in St. Petersburg? Fascinating question, which again is another episode, but keeping to the facts.
Peter
Great
the Great.
article. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You did. So David Mazierski in the Journal of Biocommunication. I drew upon a lot of this. That article, I believe, is behind a paywall, but we can give you the citation information. You can email us for more details if you like later on, because this article has a lot of photographs and interesting images.
Contact at thewonderkamer.ca.
Yes, thanks, Tracy. Perfect. Yeah, so in 1697, Tsar Peter the Great of Russia basically put on a disguise and traveled to Europe for 18 months, which is hilarious. And when you think about it, like he's just like the Tsar of Russia. Yeah, yeah, I'll dress up as a pauper and just travel around. His grand embassy was intended as a way for Peter to kind of secretly learn more about European culture and politics and to hopefully build allies among Europe's leaders. In fact, he was the first Tsar to actually leave Russia for more than 100 years up to that point. So 100 years prior, the czars had never left Russia. They're very insular. So he's like, okay, these new ideas are coming about. Let's go check it out. So it's kind of funny. He wears a disguise, travels around like Wishbone or whatever, but people saw through his disguise pretty much. For the most part, they knew who
I was
Bernardino
about to
was.
say he shows up and like speaking of this aristocratic Russian accent with this strange posture.
Yeah.
He probably didn't he speak French?
Oh, he
Oh, I'm
almost certainly
sure.
did.
French was the
Yeah.
language of the court.
Yeah,
Lingua
there we
franca.
go. So
But still,
Yes.
but
pretty recognizable. People figured it
nonetheless,
out.
I love the notion of the czar badly dressing up as what he thinks a poor person looks like,
Yes.
showing up and then asking about the local intellectual discovery so he can take it back to his strangely isolated agrarian nation where he is this absolute ruler in a
That's
world
right.
where most monarchs were not
Yeah, even
absolutists.
then he was still, yeah, compared to the rest of Europe too. Yeah, it was Russia was, still sort of that agrarian phase. It would be for quite a while. So that's a whole podcast episode in itself. Like I think that'd be really hilarious to like look into his grand embassy. But during this time, he encountered Frederick Reusch. So apparently, I don't know how this happened. Apparently, I gotta dig into that a bit more. But the main fact were apparently that he Reusch came upon one of his preserved baby corpses. He thought it was so cute. He gave it a kiss on the head and bought Reusch's entire collection. had them all shipped back to St. Petersburg. So obviously he must have done a good job. Oh, it's so adorable. Smoochy smoochy.
I can't. They're just wandering in, giving a smooch on a preserved fetus, and then just saying, "I'll take it. Take what?
Yep.
I'll take it all. I want lots of these."
Yep. More where that came from. That's good eating. I'm just kidding.
Just the worst pony jars. If neither of you know what that is, don't look it up. I'm not going to explain that.
I don't think I want to know.
Okay.
But you know me, I'm going to
No,
look
don't.
it up
Yeah, same
later
here.
because I'm a sicko.
Yeah,
so,
Tracy will not, and she'll be happy for not looking it up.
I probably will be and be very sad, but them's the breaks.
Yes, you will.
Know? So these objects are all the ones that are that survived, right? Are all housed again in the Kunstkamera, the Wonderkamer of St. Petersburg. This was Peter the Great also had a Wonderkamer, as every fashionable man did at the time. Apparently, you had to have your cabinet of curiosities. So I'm going to buy 800 jars of body parts. Great. And here's where we get
just
into...
like in the back room. It's like, and here's the curio collection, and it's just like dismembered babies all over the place.
That's all it is. Like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. Yep. So
yeah, backing out slowly.
Don't date somebody with jars of fetuses in their house. Yeah, it's not really appropriate, right? It's a bad sign.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag. Yes.
Red flag.
Red flag.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Again, if you go to that Kunstkamera website that I sent you to, the elaborate dioramas no longer exist, apparently. So personally, I wonder if they were real at all. They probably were, I suspect. Because
a few of them anyways.
Yeah, because you can see the smaller ones, like the ones in jars preserved, smaller ones like you see with the toppers, the fancy toppers, those still exist, right? But of course, St. Petersburg, think about the history of Russia for the last 300 years. St. Petersburg is only a few hundred years old, right? It's been at the center of, there's a massive fire at the Kunstkamera, the Russian Revolution happened, there's been war, and then general neglect, right? 800, 900 specimens, right? So in general...
I can see some Bolsheviks storming and then just going, what the actual fuck, and smashing everything immediately.
That's right.
And burning it down.
Like, honestly, like, kill with fire. Because honestly, like, it is
That's exactly it.
Decadent bourgeois filth. Disgusting.
Yes.
Because really,
yes.
And especially if you're just, maybe a Russian soldier or, worker, you might look at this and be like, what the fuck? This is disgusting. This goes against God, perhaps, right? I don't know. Again, the Bolsheviks weren't religious, but maybe the Russian people. Anyway, you could see why it would be a very disturbing thing to come across. So, yeah.
You have anybody who doesn't like the guy whose house they just stormed into, seeing the dismembered baby room that he shows off to his guests?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm going to
with fire.
verb everything. Yeah, just verb it.
Yeah, because really, that's
all the verbs.
Yeah, it does seem like a very decadent, disgusting, right? And especially, he made 900 of these. I believe Royce would have assistants, but that's a lot of time spent playing around with corpses. Like, that is weird, right? Like, that's... Come on.
Right.
Like,
and you get how contextually it happens, and this guy becomes the specialist and into it and just keeps doing it all the time because he's better at it than anybody, and there is value in it. But eventually you also realize, oh, this is also really weird. And it's even weirder that Peter the Great bought all of them.
Like, to me, and again, there's cultural relativism. We can talk about that a bit later in my next little part, but... Yeah, very gross. I'll send you another link here. Joanna Abenstein has a really good article on Royce, and there are a lot more images. He had, there's little fetuses kind of holding babies hanging. It's bizarre. It's like a fetal skeleton with fetuses dangling from strings in its hands. Like, very, very bizarre. Like, this is, again, very Baroque, very bizarre things. You take a look at these. And you see one of the images.
Just to be clear... I kind of think this is awesome at the same time as it being, unsettling and a little strange. But also, I mean, the approach to death from people hundreds of years ago, if we talk about cultural relativism, and the closeness to death and the immediacy of death, and how only X children ever survived to adulthood, and just how medicine worked back then. I get that it's going to be a little less disquieting to them than it is to us. Well, at the same time,
It's
it's
just
it could be
what is the
yeah.
mentality? Like, and there's one image. If you scroll down to the very bottom, in the bottom right, it looks a
Mhm.
bit like one of the dioramas. It's a little bit more. It's basically like a fetal skeleton funeral. If you look at this image,
Oh my god!
yeah. So it's not as elaborate, but it's very. They're kind of honestly, they kind of make me laugh too. They're kind of funny. Like it looks kind of funny.
They are.
Like because they have giant eye holes and just like it just looks and they're all sad and some of them are like it's just they're kind of funny but again
Weirdly, baby skeletons are hilarious to me.
yeah because the heads are huge and again I feel kind of bad for laughing but
Yeah.
they're kind of
It's
funny
uh,
like
again, these are I of all the things I can get upset about in my life, the indignities to the corpses of fetuses hundreds of years ago
yeah
are,
that's right
pretty low on the list.
it's
This is
interesting
just wild.
yeah.
I don't have the words
That's
for it.
right. And again, like, am I getting back to sort of actually, you kind of touched on what I was going to talk about right now, actually, is again, there is cultural context we're missing. Like you say, death and illness were far more present in people's lives, even as late as 100 years ago. Like, we've only had medicine that actually works for like 100 years, right? Like
Yeah.
up until like the
Yeah.
1920s, it was really guesswork, bloodletting, all kinds of fucked up shit. Like, oh, again, trying to throwing anything at the wall, right? What will actually work?
Yeah.
And so people were dying left and right, right? Infant mortality was very high. People lost pregnancies all the time. You probably had a ton of fetus skeletons to choose from. So,
Oh, to be clear, just to give you a little sneak preview of my next episode,
mm,
when it was believed that Queen Mary the First, Bloody Mary, was with child, they immediately made preparations
yep,
for her death
that's right.
because the chances of her dying in childbirth were so
I
high.
often think that if I was born and lived before birth control, I would just be a nun. Just
Yeah.
because, like, I wouldn't,
I
not
have
by choice,
given that thought too.
because what else would you do? It's
Mhm.
terrifying. And I also, again, a whole other episode. When I was in Toronto, I bought a book from like 1905. It's something case histories and diseases of women, and it's terrifying.
Oh dear.
Gynecology 100 years ago, 120 years ago was terrifying. So especially for women too, like just we are so lucky. Like again, say what you will about the industrial revolution. I appreciate medical science. Like that is the main thing to me that makes it worthwhile in many ways is just the medical science. Because again, people were
Yeah.
dying
Yeah.
left and right, and also again, in the golden era, you think of the Dutch art of this period, the golden era. You see, or golden age, Dutch golden age. You see a lot of still lifes, right? So these are still deaths. Very clever, Dave. You sculpt paintings of like food and drink with like a skull, right? So reminding you you're gonna die, right? Which is again
Yep.
kind of weird because you'd be seeing dead people all over the place. You'd think you'd know, but gotta get it in your art too.
The idea of doing that as art is still I love that
Oh,
stuff.
me
The
too.
world needs weird art.
I think they would make fantastic tarot
Oh
cards.
Oh my
yeah,
god.
those little
Oh, there
skeletons
you go.
totally
Yeah.
could get an
Yeah.
artist on that.
I bet there's enough images of those to get tarot cards together. There's a
That is
mission
pretty
for you.
cool. So yeah,
Certainly public domain by now.
oh yeah, yeah, and like with again, those engravings, public domain review, because the engravings were made for a book that Royce produced. And again, the dioramas were probably real, but it's hard to say because the very elaborate ones don't exist anymore. So I do you kind of wonder like if
Mhm.
there was some, but he, you can see the smaller ones he made probably were. But to me, it's a bit of a question. But yeah, so you'd think his sort of sculptures therefore might have been seen as memento mori, like 3D renderings of that theme, and would be appreciated that way, I'd say. But again,
I like the idea. Sorry, just to interject and agree
oh
with
yeah,
you. I think the notion that he created the sketches first and then the dioramas is extremely
oh yeah, that makes sense
plausible.
too. You need something to start with as well, right? So
Right,
yeah,
and so some of them might have been too
yeah,
ambitious for him to put together
hmm.
and never worked out. Or again, I'm sure a lot were destroyed too. But the
Hmm.
notion that we have sketches and not dioramas, while some of the dioramas exist to this day, likely means a mix of a bunch of things. But
Hmm.
I'm dead certain some of those sketches never actually were made.
Yeah, because I look at them and they are so elaborate and so delicate, and I don't know. Yeah, they'd be very challenging, and because they only exist in those sketches and engravings, you do have to wonder, right?
the ones that exist are much simpler.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, very, very simple, very
And the
small.
elaborate ones, we don't have any evidence ever existed,
Mhm.
even though they are the coolest ones, like the Mountain of Gallstones with the fiddle baby on it. Well,
Yeah.
violin at that
Yes.
point.
Yeah, you have to wonder. That looks almost too
Mhm.
elaborate. That'd be very, very difficult to do. And you also wonder, though. Again, we kind of touched on about the survivors, right? Like, again, I have mixed feelings about these objects, like you, because they're gross and in a way fucked up, but also kind of fucking metal. Like, like they look kind of
Oh,
cool.
it's just so
Yes.
cool.
They're pretty badass.
This
Yeah.
stuff is so
Like
cool.
they're amazing. Like that is pretty amazing
Yeah.
that somebody could do that, right? Like it's one of those things where they're horrible, but it's kind of cool it exists. And there are again moral quandaries. Like again, what I think this is sort of similar to is you think of death photography in the 19th century became very
Yeah.
popular. Victorian sort of funeral photographies. You'd pose a cadaver to look alive sometimes, or you would just take a picture of a dead body in a coffin. And this might
Mhm.
seem morbid to us, like, oh, why would you want that? But really, if you're living in a time where death is far more prevalent and more of a part of everyday life, you might see it differently. So, like a mortuary photograph, that could be the only picture that somebody ever has of like a baby that died, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
it seems creepy and morbid to us at the time, but then, and again, it comes back to also sort of different ways people handle corpses, right? So, some people will, even to this day, will have a corpse in their house for a few days, part of a wake, which I think in the North American context, we probably wouldn't do that, and we kind of keep it more hidden. But in a society where death is more prevalent, you might be fine with, oh yeah, he took my unfortunately passed away. He took my dead child's skeleton and made it into something worthwhile. Maybe, right?
Yeah.
So,
And also, I'm not particularly troubled with the ethics of something like this that happened a long time ago, according to its context, according
mhm,
to what people needed. Even if some people went really weird and far with it, that's inevitable when you're doing something like this that is so odd. Because I'm certain it was still considered a little odd at the time. But if somebody was doing it today without anyone's consent, that's where it becomes an ethical question.
mhm.
But in the 17th century, I do not give a shit. It's just cool.
Yeah, fair enough. Now this is so fascinating because we're gonna get to the
Let's see
last.
how far we could stretch my cultural
Yes,
relativism on this.
because the last thing I want to talk about. Okay, this is an object that I do find very fascinating, and I find it very horrible, and I think it might be evil.
Ooh.
And not evil in like a religious sense,
Ooh.
but like evil in a like this maybe shouldn't exist. Now, this is an object that was apparently considered a work of great beauty and moral value in the 1860s. So I'm going to send you again another picture. You can take a look at that. And I will say kudos to the photographer because
Oh, sweet Christ.
yes, yes. And
Oh,
if you zoom
wow.
in, you can really see the detail. This is. Do either of you want to describe this instead of me, just to get your impressions?
I'll let Dave do that.
Oh, I was about to pitch to Tracy. Okay. What I see is a red-haired woman's body. She is gray-skinned. Her eyes are bloodshot. She looks youngish. Yeah, no, she looks young. And she is covered in snakes. These are smaller snakes. They are biting into her eyes. And in fact, the snakes also have gory ends to them. So there's a tail wrapped around her neck, and the tail just falls apart into viscera. And it looks like the snake is entering and erupting from her eye while another one is biting her eye, and there are trails of gore all over the place, and she is in a lovely
I
blouse
appreciate
with
the
a ruff.
blouse. Yes. Very good description, Dave. Yes. So,
Yeah.
again, if you're listening, go look at this. We'll have a link in the chat, or and I keep saying chat. We'll have a link in the
Show notes,
sources.
show notes,
Show
show
notes. Show
notes, show
notes.
notes.
Show notes. So this photograph is by Carlo Vanini, and it's a great picture. I kudos, right? He made a very, very creepy photograph, and this is from an author named Ivan Chenzi. His blog "Death and the Maiden," which is appropriate. So these photographs, I think, were also published in a book he wrote, but I don't have that book. I'm going off of his blog post. So again, this would seem to me to perhaps say have a limited medical value. This thing. This is called, and here's the thing too, the name is even worse. It's called the punished suicide.
Oh.
Oh.
So that,
Oh, fuck.
yeah, that adds a bit of a cast to it, doesn't it? So I think you can probably guess what's going on here with this thing, right? So
Uh-huh.
the most thorough article on this object, this topic that I could find is by Fabio Zampieri, Alberto Zanata, Maurizio Ripa Bonatti. The article is in Italian, however, so I used my limited skills in some Google Translate to get the gist of it. I believe Cenzi based his blog on this article. The authors call this object un grotesco preparato anatomico di Ludovico Brunetti, which you can guess, grotesco preparato anatomico. It's a grotesque
Mhm.
anatomical preparation by
Atom-
Ludovico Brunetti. So
that is accurate. That is exactly what that is.
yes, it is. Yeah. And so you can find their article on ResearchGate. It's for free there. You can download it. If you're interested, we'll have a link in the show notes. Caitlin Dowdy also did an episode, a YouTube video on this object, which I saw about 8 years ago, which I also, it's where I learned about it originally. And so she's a good video
Mhm.
on that too. And you can find that link or do a search for it. So what happened here was one day in 1863, an 18-year-old seamstress threw herself into a river and drowned. So, what all the sources say is that she did this out of amorous delusion, but who knows? She was lovesick. She was probably raped and impregnated and was ashamed and killed herself. That's probably what happened. Like, she's a young woman in Italy in 1863. Like, she probably had a shitty ass life. I'm sorry, you know? So,
The authorities and everybody's going to say, "Oh, she was just struck with being, the unbearable horror of being a woman and threw herself into the water because women be like that,"
yep,
rather than she was subjected to horrible things and could not bear to live anymore.
yep.
Is almost certainly true.
Yes, that's right. So, unfortunately, her unhappiness would continue. She happened to throw herself into the river in Padua. Again, we remember the Evelyn tables, right? Padua is home to one of Europe's oldest universities and for a long time was the center of anatomical study and research. So again, the Evelyn tables were made there a couple hundred years before. Ludovico Brunetti was a chair of anatomical pathology at the University of Padua at the time, and he requested the young woman's body be brought to him. So obviously very creepy,
Ugh.
gross, icky things going on there. So Brunetti, he was born in 1813. So a little bit later, obviously, than the people we were talking about before. He's a 19th century guy. He was interested in preserving animal and human tissues. So he developed his special tannization technique. This is drying a specimen, in this case, drying the skin and injecting it with tannic acid. So basically preserving it, sort of a leather-like thing.
Which is why she is gray.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
This young woman apparently provided him with the perfect specimen for his experiments.
Aw.
So he did notice. So what happened was the reason
Oh.
you have the kind of snakes attacking her is her skin was actually lacerated by the hooks that were used to drag her body out of the river. So, oh,
Oh.
gotta
They
incorporate
dragged her
these.
by the face.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it's like
Yes.
out of her eye. Yes. So it's like, oh, I can incorporate these into my little art project. No problem. So he desecrated her corpse and I guess the corpse of a couple of snakes as well. So here's what he did. Now I'm quoting Ivan Cenzi. First, he made a plaster cast of her face and her upper bust, so her chest. This is what you can see in the picture and in the specimen itself. It's just sort of upper chest up.
Right. It is literally just a bust. I'm
Yeah.
also reminded of that old Margaret Atwood poem. You fit into me like a hook into an eye, a fish hook into an open eye.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Ugh, I
It's
remember
a good
that
poem.
poem. It is great.
Yeah.
Damn.
My mom used to tell me that poem.
Does he help you fall asleep? If you fall asleep, I love you, Dave, like
Yeah.
a fish hook into an eye. Thanks, mommy. Anyway, your mom's awesome.
Ah,
That's
my beloved smother. I mean, mother.
She's a great lady. I do know her too.
We'll get her on one episode.
Yes. Oh, she's been expert in so many things. Revolution in Lesotho.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So unfortunately, this poor woman, Brunetti took her skin. He peeled away all of her skin from her head and her neck, being especially careful to preserve her golden, beautiful hair. She's a lot of red hair. He then proceeded to treat the skin. He scoured it with sulfuric ether and fixed it with his own tannic acid formula. Secret formula. These guys always got a secret formula. So once the skin was saved from putrefaction, he put it back over the plaster cast to reproduce her features. And then he added glass eyes and, I guess, plaster ears to the creation. And then to hide the lacerations, he put the wooden branches to either side of her chest. He entwined these with tanninized snakes. So he desecrated their corpses too. The poor snake families. Very sad about their brethren. So and then he carefully mounted.
It's all right. The snakes committed suicide too.
That's right. That's what they get. Snakes in hell. So we stick together. He carefully mounting the reptiles as if they were devouring the girl's face. Of course, he sees, and then back to the quote here, he poured some red candle wax to serve as blood spurts, and there it was, a perfect allegory of the punishment reserved in hell to those who committed the mortal sin of suicide. So, end quote. There you have it. So, what do you think? Do you think that's fair? This is one of those things where I'm like, it looks pretty cool, but it's also pretty horrible. So I'm curious about what your reactions are to this.
History is gross and unkind.
More importantly, men are gross and unkind.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, because here's the thing. The story kind of continues a little bit. So if that was your child's body, you might feel a bit disturbed by this. I mean, if somebody did that to one of my family members or one of my friends and showed me it, I would go insane.
I would write at the bare minimum a very strongly worded
scary,
letter.
Dave. That's pretty tough.
And then probably turn into an axe murderer.
Yeah. Cause
I'd probably be okay with it.
Oh yeah? Like, you know what? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we can do, just hear me out. And what we can do after I hit him with an axe a few times is that we can use his secret tannic formula to preserve his corpse with an axe sticking out the side of it that can then serve as a lesson to the peril of those who want to tell misogynist.
That's right. That's a good idea. You know, he would deserve it. That's only fair. What's good for the goose,
I
as
think
they say.
It is fair and reasonable. And what's he going to do about it? He's dead. I'm not. You lose. I win.
Right. Up yours, Brunetti. Brunetti. So he did.
Eat a dead guy.
Yeah. Up yours, Brunetti, dead man. But yeah, so if somebody showed that to my family member, I would go insane immediately. But this guy showed the girl's parents what he did with her body. And they were very pleased, apparently. So he says, Brunetti claims he showed this to the girl's parents and they were very pleased, and all her friends loved it because they could immediately tell who she was. They immediately recognized her and thought it was great. Now, you have to wonder.
This leads me to believe that, assuming this is true, and it very well may be, historical relativism or cultural relativism is a sham. I am a chauvinist from my own belief system, and everyone else throughout human history across the world is wrong.
Nope.
That's a joke. You're supposed to laugh at it.
There was a lag. I was like...
I was wondering where you were going with that.
I kind of don't disagree.
Well, and again, there are our sphere of empathy, right? Here's the thing. When they are doing this with fetuses hundreds and hundreds of years ago, who were it's very different from an adult, or barely an adult, an 18-year-old, where you want to tell a mean story about women, which is something that we're kind of fighting about today. Mm-hmm. And that's why it matters in a way that, and again, any pro-lifers listening to this might have very different opinions about the fetuses.
That's right.
In which case, I also say you're wrong and should feel bad about being wrong. But nonetheless, you get why there's a different reaction to this, because it's a closer story to us. That's how empathy works.
So apparently the family was quite pleased. Ivan Cenzi in his blog does discuss the difference between modern reactions to this object versus those of Brunetti's contemporaries. Cenzi is was everybody insane? Because he notes people in Brunetti's day did react very positively to this object. And Brunetti went on to win the grand prize at the Universal Exhibition in Paris in 1867 for this item and for some of his other
Oh, wow.
creations. Yeah, so he won a prize. This was displayed publicly at the Universal Exhibition in Paris. Like people saw that he was awarded a prize, I think, in arts and professions. So it was seen as like an amazing thing. And
Oh
honestly,
my, she's just at the head of a parade on a pole, Living Dead Girl by Rob Zombie's playing in the background.
like kind of cool, but like that's the thing. It's kind of the challenge because to me, again, like I kind of think, and again, it's like the misogyny you're putting out earlier, Dave. Like I almost don't disagree about the relativism thing because I feel like if your morality, in this case, Christian Catholic morality, is so warped that you're like, yeah, if you kill yourself, this should happen to you. This woman committed suicide and we took her corpse and made snakes eating her face forever. Yeah, that seems fair. Like to me, that's why this was seen as a beautiful object because it's telling, as you say, a misogynist morality tale, which to me makes those people sick, evil freaks.
This is a young woman for a reason and not, let's say, an older man, because there's always been a lot of suicides.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's a younger woman is by no means an accident. I'm
Yes.
confident about that. And again, like the cultural relativism does have limits because when we start talking about concepts that are relevant and important in this time, you can talk like transatlantic slave trade. It's like
Mm.
low hanging fruit to talk about, but that's a bad thing. And its legacy heavily colors everything we understand about modern society.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the beliefs of those at the time are not worth, saying, oh, well, they were just a product of the time, because so were
That's
abolitionists,
right.
and we'll cheer the abolitionists, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or in short, fuck you, Thomas Jefferson.
Honestly, like that's the thing. People like to give cover to the past and say, well, they didn't know any better, or that was a style at the
Yeah, they
time,
did.
but they did know better. And in this case, too, again, like my point kind of here is not so much even just the corpse desecration. Like this woman, she's dead, doesn't matter in a way, right? Like in a way, I personally don't believe in souls. I think probably if you'd asked her if she would like this to happen to her, she probably would have said no. So it's not great. And again, the thing with like the thing that's happening, say with like the books about inhuman skin, there's a lot of controversy around that because libraries like Harvard own them. And the question is now, do we get rid of them or do we keep them? So objects like this, again, it's fascinating. And again, I feel so many minds about this because it is interesting that it exists and it's a fascinating thing. But when you look at it as an object that was produced by the specific religious and cultural context, it's pretty horrible because their morality is pushing them to say, no, this is a good thing. And this is what she would deserve. And this is a good moral
Mhm.
lesson. Not considering like the circumstances of what would have pushed a woman back then to suicide, right? So again, very fascinating. And if I was a smarter person, I'd probably have more to say about the intersections of art and medicine and morality. But I'm just kind of going on in my innate sense of like, this is pretty fucked up. Even,
I'm
considering back then.
I'm only so smart, and I can certainly make up stuff to talk about it forever. And I
Yeah,
bet as we continue this podcast, the conversation is going to come up more than once.
for sure. So that
Yeah.
was. Oh, sorry, Tracy, did you have a comment?
Oh, no.
Okay, so that was the punished suicide and the end of my episode. Apparently, this is still on display at the University of Padua. Never been there. I would probably go actually if I was in Padua. So again, maybe I'm a
Oh, I'd
sick
see
freak. Oh,
it.
I totally would see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's
No, I like.
fascinating and you can be respectful.
Well, and also to like punctuate this kind of moral discussion, I don't think this should be destroyed because it's fascinating, it's historically interesting, it raises a lot of very good moral questions with which are worth discussion.
Mhm.
It's different from, say, a statue to a Confederate general or John A. MacDonald or someone, because the statues are created in a situation where this is a great person and you must celebrate them,
Yes.
and they are positioned as a moral lesson and a reinforcement of that culture and the values you're supposed to have.
Hmm.
And you don't build a statue of a horrible person, right? And they don't have a statue of
Well, not
Picton in
knowingly,
Vancouver.
anyways.
Not knowingly. But there's not like no one put a statue of Picton in Vancouver after I was
Yes,
discovered what he was
that's
doing.
right.
Uh, So that's why statues are the kinds of things that, and if they're a wonderful or really important statue, take it down, put it in a museum, and then
Mhm.
contextualize it.
But I
But
yeah.
yeah,
I would agree. I don't think it should be destroyed either because it is fascinating. And I think it probably should be on display because it does, again, show you this is the attitude and morality at the time. And it is like kind of an incredible object. Like you can see, like the fact that it's 150 years old plus and looks like it still looks very real. And like I mean, her skin is gray, but it looks very interesting and looks very vivid, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to wrap up, I had thought about discussing, Gunther von Hagens, who does Body Worlds. Like that guy's a freak. Have you know about the Body Worlds exhibits? Like that guy, I'm
no.
pretty
No.
sure. Oh, so basically, this guy plastinates corpses and skins them and puts them in various poses. It was about 20 years ago. I went to see the exhibit in Vancouver. He's probably actually an episode. I should have talked about him then. I thought you'd be more familiar, but he's a creepy fedora wearing pervert, probably, who essentially plasticizes bodies, skins them, puts them in various poses, takes an exhibit around the world. Controversy all over. He's from Germany originally. He probably gets his bodies in from nefarious means. Apparently, a couple of the corpses he got from China had bullet holes in their heads. So,
Oh.
also sicko. But, yes. So, again, this is still going on to this
Oh my
day.
god. So there's a fedora wearing pervert
Yes.
who is nabbing bodies through questionable means and then
Yes.
displaying them as art, and everyone's mad about it.
Yeah. And I
Yeah, that
gotta,
sounds about right.
yeah, and I gotta look this up because apparently he wanted to do an exhibit where he's posing the corpses in sexual positions. Which normally they're like
Oh.
jumping over a hurdle. Like I almost fainted actually. I saw it in Vancouver in 2005. I walk in, the skinned corpse jumping over a hurdle, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a human." Like it's like I'm a ghoul, but I'm also like a coward. So it was very scary to see. There is a permanent body worlds in Amsterdam, which I haven't been to yet because I'm scared, and also I would want to get high and go. I know you've seen skinned bodies before, but have you seen skinned bodies on weed? Like, I think it would be too scary.
And just to put my moral flag out there, I heartily endorse this and I think it's awesome.
Body worlds. I mean,
I'm going to take a ludicrously strong stance on this, even if I end up winding up a hypocrite. Because, for example, I probably would not want a loved one to show up in this
yeah,
unless they were interested in it. As in, I would love to my corpse to be used in such a way. When I say donate my body to art, that's what I'm talking about. I want a weird pervert to put together a display of like whatever nonsense they want because that will fulfill me as a person.
that's right. Honestly,
And
it's kind of cool. Like, that's the thing. I have such mixed feelings because it is kind of cool. And, like, this guy is a creep, I think. And honestly, like, the thing with Von Hagens, though, is he did say, I want to be plastinated too, and my body to be posed in a museum to greet the people coming in. So at least he's
like a Walmart
he
greeter.
actually
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, at least he's not a hypocrite, right? So my stance on this is kind of complicated. I think these objects are ultimately pretty cool and interesting, very morally questionable, but they exist. What I feel about them doesn't matter. They're out there, they exist. They're part of our now Wonderkamer that I'm
Yep.
sharing with the two of you. And that's all I got for today. What are your guys' concluding thoughts on these weird objects and people who made them?
I'm really fascinated with them. They're spooky, they're beautiful, they're a little bit strange. It's, all the things that I look
Nice.
for.
Dave? Oh, you
Love it.
you think they're
This
awesome, we know.
I
Not to cut you
Yeah.
off.
I've been shouting this is awesome the entire time. And again, the ethical questions that get raised about all of this are to an extent almost secondary, with the exception of that poor woman who committed suicide, where again, that one feels a little close to
Yeah.
home. And I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think that's why it's unsettling, even though I do think that this is a legitimate piece of art and should be preserved because there's never going to be anything like that. Same with the like books bound in
Mm-hmm.
human flesh. Just why destroy them? They're already there. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
there's a machine that we have to stop of binding books.
Yes.
This existed, and probably never gonna see this again unless something really weird happens. So just, like, let it be a historical
Yeah,
curio.
I agree, and with the books too. I think that could be a future episode because they're becoming particularly controversial now because I believe Harvard is going to destroy some of their human flesh bound books. So it's woke
Oh.
just gone mad. No, I'm just kidding. That one, it's a
Yeah.
tricky one because it is. It's a challenge because they are. I agree. Like, they already exist. Nobody's being killed to make these again.
Mhm.
And again,
Yeah.
it's horrifying. Like the idea of a corpse can't consent is a gross thought, but
It's also
it's
true.
true. Yeah. So like even
Yeah.
myself, I'm like, once I'm dead, I don't care. Like literally, chuck me in the landfill. I do not give a shit. If you want to use me for art, I mean, but again, it depends what art. I guess I want kind of a say. Like I don't want Gunther von Hagens to pose me in some disgusting pornography. You know what I mean? Like there's a different like.
Or
Yeah.
the,
You want to be at
you
least
know, or
somewhat
if somehow
dignified.
you're used as in some sort of fascist rallying cry, however that would be. I'd be opposed to that, but I also won't have an opinion at that point. Thank you so much, Jen.
You're
That was amazing.
welcome. I'm glad you liked it.
Yes, thank
It was a
you.
lot of fun.
That
Thank you
was
for.
great.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of fun to research. And again, my episodes might verge on the ghoulish sometimes, but that's just how I roll. So you gotta deal with it.
That's totally fine. Tracy,
Yeah.
I'm going to be going after my little bit of dabbling in history to the modern and extremely online weird stuff I'm aware of.
Yes.
So we're all going to go into our own strange directions.
Awesome.
Although I think Tracy and I will be taking tours back into Canadian history quite a bit.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what I need to
Yeah.
learn more about. I'm a shitty Canadian, unfortunately. So I.
Most Canadians don't know our history very well.
That's right.
And there is a lot to explore there. And also in the world of podcasts of this style, very little said
That's right.
about that. Because frankly, I've learned more history from podcasts than I have from books at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Good podcasts that learn their history from books.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to sort of continue that tradition a little bit. So that's of interest to me, but also the weird, extremely online stuff. So thank you for listening to Wonderkamer. Any last
Uh,
words?
bye, listeners.
Team
Thank you for
Corpse!
listening. Yeah, Team Corpse.
Team Corpse!
Thank you for listening to the Wonderkamer. Find us under the Wonderkamer on Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram.